coming back to landlords, and in particular, most of ours, which have mortgages attached to the buy-to-lets as they're building their portfolios, so they're gearing up essentially. We've already talked about it's fairly obvious that unless you're living on your own with no dependents, no next of kin, you would have a mortgage to pay off the residential mortgage. But talk us through what the advantages are in having life insurance in place for our landlords where they've got buy-to-let mortgages, because you would think, like, well, actually, in theory, we've got rental income that's paying that mortgage. So do I actually need life insurance as well?
Yeah, so basically, with regards to the buy-to-lets, it's still a good idea to have life insurance, because basically by having a life insurance policy to cover your mortgage on your buy-to-let, it basically means upon your death, your family basically can keep the property because the mortgage is paid off, and therefore they can then have that rental income to either support themselves, because obviously your income's not going to be there anymore, so it's almost like a replacement income. The other side of it is, I've had customers in the past where their family don't meet the criteria, especially if it's going to young children or people who are housewives, for instance, and don't work. It may be that they're unable to take over the portfolio in their own name. So therefore, all of a sudden, they're having to sell those properties. But the problem is, to sell the properties, they may need to get the tenants out, and it depends how long it also is going to take to get get that property sold, in which case they're having to maintain the mortgage payments, especially if there's a void or anything like that. But by basically making sure that the mortgage is paid off upon death, it's by putting the policy, if we did the policy in trust, it means that basically would still have a mortgage outstanding for inheritance tax purposes on the buy-to-let. So you don't pay inheritance tax on the mortgage portion because that's still there. But however, upon your death, the money gets paid out from the trust, and therefore the family can pay the mortgage straight off. They can deal with the property as they wish, whether it be selling it, just having that rental income to support them, or even refinancing them. I've had customers in the past where they've grown the portfolio off the back of the legacy. But also it means that they get that money straight away, they can deal with it, they don't have to worry about, we've got these properties we need to sort out as well. Basically.
Yeah.
So it just takes all that pressure away.
I mean, it's a great point you make, that the person who's remaining, if it's a partnership, it's a spouse, a partner, they actually have to be eligible to take over that mortgage when the other partner or spouse is no longer around, and it's not a guarantee. They have to qualify in their own right, don't they? Otherwise, perhaps you've got to sell some, or if not all, of the sort of portfolio as a consequence. So it's a real practical point. That linked to that, maybe just an observation more than a question from me about that point, is that we do have a lot of portfolio landlords that we sort of call clients, and they have set themselves some medium or indeed long-term property goals that might be 5 or 10 years away to get to a certain level of income, and therefore hit those goals, which are massively important to them. It could be life-changing. It could be allow them to retire, to allow them to quit the job. They get a certain level of financial independence for them and their family that allows them to do X, Y, or Z. So once they've got to that point of getting the portfolio up to the level that they need, then essentially that passive income is going to be there for life. But as I said right at the outset of today's Q&A, sadly, these surprises do come left field while you're on your journey, and that's unfortunately exactly what happened to that client I referred to a little earlier. That they were mid-portfolio journey, and all of a sudden, that property plan is now in pieces.
Yeah.
So the insurance policy can essentially clear the mortgages. They might not be able to add to the portfolio, but that means you can maybe then retain all the income, and the rest of the family can now achieve those objectives, and it accelerates your ability to get to those goals.
And the other thing to mention is, unfortunately, some people think I'll wait till I get further down the line. But unfortunately, as you say, we never know what's around the corner. So even if people are planning on growing their portfolio, it's still a good idea to do it now, because basically it means that they're covered for what they've got in existence now, should the worst happen. But also, as your portfolio grows, or you're pulling equity out of the properties and refinancing, we can always increase your current cover, whether that be something to run alongside it, whether it be tweaking what you've got, because we're whole of market, we'll always check what's the most cost effective option for you. So what I would say is, don't wait till you get to that point. Get it done sooner rather than later, because we can always review it as things go along, basically.